So the new bankers is just a proof of concept where we are giving more visibility to what's happening in Brazil on the financial industry. Next slide, Carl. So basically, to the ones that are not following actually what's happening in Brazil, the whole financial industry is changing in front of our own eyes. Instead, being aggressive and pushing back blockchain technology. Brazilian institutions are embracing the technology, and the Brazilian Central Bank is the bigger promoter of blockchain technology in financial industry, and of course is pushing the whole regulatory environment to a friendly situation. Right? So we are seeing a country that has 200 million inhabitants, a size of a continent, make part of the 8 biggest economies in the world, embracing blockchain, and we are just in the beginning. So we, and together with another protocols and of course the whole institutions are paying attention to what's happening in Brazil. People are start building infrastructure, what we call the banking system 3.0. Next slide, Carl. So the way that we're seeing that, and this project was developed together with Fuse Venture Capital as a VC in Brazil that has also a venture studio arm. So basically, they are building a core infrastructure to connect different economical verticals that will demand access to liquidity. This core infrastructure will manage risk through a different set of models, and based on the input data, they will take the decision on free up resource for those verticals on loans and etc. Go ahead, Carlo, next slide. So basically what we envision is that this Web3 banking financial system will have a core module, as I mentioned, that provides liquidity and provide liquidity to those different verticals based on inputs that those verticals will give to this financial model. In the experimental week, we basically implement a set of smart contracts that will manage company credit scores, based on financial data that we retrieve on-chain through Chainlink Oracle, and use Cartesi machine to deploy a finance risk assessment model. Next slide, Carl. So the workflow that we implemented basically is this fetching of financial data through Chainlink Oracle that will give on-chain data that is required by this financial model that is implemented on our core tech, and this model will assess the risk and, of course, give back the results on this assessment. The plan is also to implement a kind of marketplace for those models where we can also share value back to the creators of those models. Go ahead, Carl.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk a bit about the model that we did. So for this model, we basically generated a training data set, and that's because the sources that we're using, they're really expensive. It's like $5 to check for any fiscal code in Brazil. But then we generated this synthetic payload just to train this model. It basically uses this score from Serasa, the total debt of the person, the social capital, which is the legal guarantee that you give anyone that's dealing with your company how much you're willing to pay. We generate this data set, and I'm going to speed this up a bit. And this is used both to train the data and also to check how good the model is. And then we have this other script that generates this model with sklearn. In this case, we use a linear regression model that apparently works fine with this kind of data, at least according to a couple of papers we saw. And we trained this model and tested with a simple payload here, just to make sure that it apparently works correctly. So this data CSV is the data that we generated, and then we use this other script for generating the actual model itself.
Correct.
I will speed up, Felipe, don't worry. And once the model is generated, we have some sample data in here. We have the evaluation of the model in there, which is the R2 score, which is pretty good, and a test input. And finally, we also have the entire application, which Artur made this really simple front end. So what happens is when you enter the front end, you just provide the physical code of the person you want to check and how much they want to get on a loan. When you press the request score button, that goes into this proxy smart contract that makes a request to Chainlink to go to SaaS and other data sources to retrieve the data. This is asynchronous, and you make the request, and then you have to pull for the response. It takes so this video is 1 minute. It takes like 1 minute to go to Chainlink and get a response. And once we get the response, it actually goes to the Cartesi machine. It runs that model that we trained, that I showed on the slide before, and it returns you your score. Okay. So yeah, that's it.